Margaret, what was your question for CW?
If you knew then...
Would I do it over again? Or how would I do it over again?
If you knew now what you didn't know then?
As I said earlier, I tried to minimize the effects that I thought it would have on my kids in my mind in order to leave my marriage, and I found out that the effects were much more severe. I think the first thing I would do very differently would be to get them both into counseling. I would try more insistently to get them into counseling and work harder at having them into counseling and keep them in it longer. I think that I almost feel that counseling should be built into the divorce decree, because I think the parents are so incapable at the moment that they are having a breakup of thinking about the children. This means the mother and the father. If the mother's the one who's being left or the father's the one who's being left, all you're thinking about is, my relationship has disintegrated. I'm heartbroken, or I'm guilty, or I want something else, and you're not thinking about the children, and someone has to be thinking about the children. And it should be a professional, I think, someone who understands what kids go through as a result of this.
Fran.
How did you deal with it when it came your weekend and the kids didn't want to come because they had something planned with friends or...
This exactly happened to me, especially when they lived out of town. I would pick them up on Friday night at the airport, and I would have all these activities planned for them, and because they lived in this city, they had all these activities planned for themselves, and they didn't fit at all, and I felt as though I were simply being a chauffeur. I would take them here and take them here, drop them off at this friend's house, pick them up from this friend's house, and
Did you ever feel that was fun?
That's an interesting comment.
Yeah.
That's what a mother does.
Yeah,
That's what a mother does.
Well, did you ever find that fun? I have found myself in that situation a couple of times, and I almost found it fun.
well, I wanted
drop
more.
them off.
I wanted more. You know, I was greedy. You know?
Yeah. How
You
did-
wanted some kind of connection with them when they were
I
there,
wanted
a little
for
bit
us
of
all to
time.
have a real meaningful
No,
time.
you wanted it for yourself.
Yeah, right.
You wanted it for
Yeah.
yourself. You
Yeah.
weren't really thinking. I mean, we think we're thinking
I mean, I
about
thought, well,
kids,
I've only
but
got
we're
this weekend to have them. I want them every minute, you know?
Yeah.
And they didn't want this.
Alberta.
I wanted to know how, as service providers to children and parents who go through this situation, how can we best help parents and the children?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I think that if parents are willing to get the kids into counseling, then I think that would be the main service, I would think, of someone really being helpful.
Doing that, so how would you suggest that we could help? Is there any?
I don't know. Perhaps our therapist can tell us what we do when kids don't want to be into counseling and they're too angry to be counseled. How you get
What
them.
do you do?
It's not easy. I mean, you try to see the child first if you can alone. That sometimes you can convince, and when you bond with the child, try to convince them that it's going to help them in the long run, that you're their advocate. Because when they're set up, they don't see themselves in this role as being equal in the situation, because they are.
So how did you resolve your problem? I mean, your daughter had a drug problem. Your son, some depression.
Someone asked earlier about how they felt about my writing about this, and of course this business with her being in the hospital was 3.5 years ago, and so she tends to think of it as very ancient history. And she gets a little irritated whenever she meets people who have read the book, and they say, and how are you now, my dear? And you know, it's like, oh, come on, it's a long time ago, and I don't want to hear any more about it. So I think time has resolved it, and beyond that, I really do feel that my persistent attempts to stay involved with their lives has had a beneficial payoff. That finally, even though it was a lot of trouble, and you know, it was sometimes I wondered whether I even should be doing it.
Don't you think, though, they know, bottom line, you really care? Whether they want to be there or not, you know what Dad cares?
Yeah, but it's important to be a help, too. I mean, to do drive them around, to send those child support checks in, and to do those things that are
In
necessary.
reading about you last night, you did say a very important thing. If you are obligated to pay child support, pay your child support. It's a big problem in this country.
Yeah.
This is your book with not all the answers, but one man's experience in dealing with his children after divorce. Will They Love Me When I Leave by C.W. Smith. Thank you for being with us.